And so I just popped that thing open when finally the chains were broken. I popped that thing open. I drew me a bath. You know, I love my baths. You know I do. I love them nice and hot, like scalding, like your skin's about to fall off. I
Oh.
opened that bottle of wine. I poured it all in that bathtub and I soaked. Welcome to Simply 1%, where we believe that small shifts, just 1% shifts, create transformation. Big change doesn't usually happen in one big dramatic moment. It happens in the small intentional adjustments we make over time. Here we approach growth with grace for ourselves and grace for others. Meredith Richards is a licensed marriage and family therapist and communication coach. And I'm Wendolyn Pascal, a life developmental coach and a mentor and teacher of the motivational gifts. If what you hear resonates with you, we would love your support. Follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a 1% shift today. All right, let's get into this, simply 1% at a time.
Wendolyn, last time we talked about the difference, we started the conversation about acceptance and settling, what that really is, what that means, telling the difference, not just based on the collected evidence over time, the gathering of information and self-awareness, but what it actually means to be self-aware with these two words and in these situations. So even taking you guys through the little bit of an exercise of, okay, when's the last time you said yes, but you wanted to say no? Or when did you say no and you wanted to say yes? Let's just, we had that moment. And also what it's like to be in acceptance. You're accepting something, you're with somebody who accepts you, however you experience acceptance and what that feels like. And we also challenged you with this on the last episode of let's pay attention to that this week when you said no and you wanted to say yes, or vice versa. Are there moments in your life that you made this choice and do you still have to live in the choice? You have options. So feeling settled and settling, they're a little bit different, but it still all goes in with this idea together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to call this the readiness factor when we are ready after we recognize something that really does need to shift. How do we know that? And, this is just time. We're not playing here on Simply 1%. We're funny, like, we have a great time. That's not what I mean.
No.
We do this because we desire freedom for you in the deepest part of our depths and our core, that we do this every week, as you've heard us talk about the technology, through when Wendolyn's sick, when I'm exhausted, I haven't slept for 3 days, and all the technology, and also through all the joy and fun, and all of those things exist. But we do this because we want you to experience the freedom from a life that you may not want, a decision that you've made that you do have control of and you can get out of. A lot of times the perspective here is that what do we have control over? And how do we change that? How do we recognize the things that we can change? How do we recognize where we have control? Control is not a bad thing, by the way. It is important as humans to have control, self-control, right? I have the opportunity to experience freedom, maybe not in all parts of my life, but in this one part, I do. So how do we set ourselves free? That is the realness factor. That is what we're talking about today. Wendolyn, we're going to go back to you because you have a beautiful illustration and a great story on how to move to the next step.
Right. I think a big thing is, why did I say yes to that? Why did I say no to that? If we can see
why we didn't have wisdom in a certain area. What contributed to that? Why we made that decision that we regretted later and we realized we were settling. For me, it wasn't starvation, right? We talked about that in the last podcast, where you're starving for something and it seems available, but it's counterfeit, right? It's not the real thing. It's not really what you settle for that because it looks a little bit like what you're starving for. That was never my thing. And I've talked about this in the past with my impulsivity with ADD, where I felt like I had to answer right away. I felt like I had to give the yes or I had to give the no immediately. There's so many times I look back at that and I say, oh, had I just answered differently? And I always thought that if I just answered differently. But then I met my husband. And one time at church, someone asked us to do something. And my husband said, we're going to need to get back to you. We'll talk about it and we'll reach out. It's like, I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know we could pause. I didn't know we could do that. I didn't know that's what we should do. And it was not only did it make him look delicious when he said that, because I was like, oh, excuse me. I was like, I just didn't know that was an option. And I realized that that's where a lot of the things that I settled for came from, was my lack of pausing, not doing that. I wasn't ready to give the answer. And my children, many of you know that I homeschool, and a lot of our science comes from our everyday, right? So we had to polish our RV and it oxidized. And so that day we learned about oxidation and what is oxidation, what's chemically what takes place and how do you fix it? So this day we were at the grocery store and I told my kids to pick out the bananas and they picked out green ones. And I said, well, are you wanting to eat those today? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, then you're not picking the right ones. You need to pick the ones that are yellow. We got in the car and my daughter goes, why did we have to pick ones that were yellow? And I said, well, because the green ones have tannins. And they're like, what's tannins? And I said, well, tannins is something that is in vegetation that before it's ripe, it contains lots of tannins and it's bitter. It can actually make you very sick. It can kill animals. It's the plant's way of preservation. Because the plant has to get to a ripe stage before it can be consumed, because it can't reproduce without what? The fruit falling from something, the seed on the ground, and then it, grows into another plant, right? It's the plant's way, it's the design of the plant to protect itself and to be able to reproduce and say, okay, now I'm ready for consumption because now I can reproduce and I'm safe to eat. And I started thinking about that. And so as our discussion of tannins went in further, and I started thinking about the readiness factor. There were just times I wasn't ready to answer, and I did. That led me into settling. I didn't take the time to pause. It made me think back to this time where this guy asked me, do you want to be my girlfriend? I didn't feel good about saying yes or no. My only thing that I went off of was what would make him happiest. Because I didn't know I could pause. I wasn't ready. The readiness factor was not there. But I felt like I had to answer. And I didn't have that wisdom of pause yet in my life. And this was not my husband. And I just said yes. I knew in that moment when I said yes, I had a sick feeling in my stomach. And I didn't listen to it. I just went along with it. And it ended up being like a horrible relationship. But I just remember in that, and I'm at fault at that too, because it didn't align with my values and priorities. That relationship, that person, that we just didn't align. And I said yes to something that I should have waited. And I think about that analogy of the tannins and how there's a time to make decisions. there's a time when you're ready. And until that time, right, the fruit's bitter. It's poisonous even. There's lots of things that go into that, that when a decision is made in that time in my life when I'm not ready, I can tell you, aside from the grace of God, I am miserable. I get that sick feeling in my stomach. I usually am settling for something. And I think about so many times that people make decisions when they're not ready to make them. The maturity factor is not there. They feel like they can't take a moment and pause. You can, unless it's an emergency, you don't have to answer. You don't.
Can I suggest? So I just was actually watching Matlock. You know, you and I like that show. And, right, you do. But
Yeah.
Maddie Matlock. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I am loyal to the old Matlock, but continue.
Yes. I mean, obviously. Never watched one of those in
I'm
my life, but I'm sure that you have a lot of associations with that.
Yes, I do. I love hymns. Go ahead.
So I was watching the last episode, and don't worry, guys, I'm not giving it away. It's a part where the character came back with an answer, and she has been wanting to give the person the answer for a long time because the important person keeps asking her. And she realized that the answer she could give about this big decision is, I don't know. I don't know. That's an answer. I'm not sure.
That is.
So when you just said that, it just reminded me of the show. And she said, I don't know. I'm going to take 2 weeks. This is, I don't know if I'll be ready then, but I can prepare myself to be. Right? This is a big decision. So an answer can be, I'm not sure. I don't know. And with that, someone can accept your answer, or they don't have to. But that's not the reason you give the answer that's necessary for the question.
Yeah, the relief of, I almost felt like there was a relief when I could answer right away. Like, oh, there's a relief in doing that. But I realized relief is not the same as nourishment. It's not the same as the right answer. There was relief because of anxiety. There wasn't relief. Right?
Oh my gosh, such a great point, Wendolyn.
Of pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, but it wasn't the right relief.
Relief and ready, right? So you finally did make a pretty, like a very good decision. And I loved when you did. And I loved your ritual from when you did. I don't know if you're going to share that, but it's one of my favorite stories about you.
What ritual?
With what you decided to do in order to like work that through, where you took the red wine, right? That's one of my favorite stories of all time about you. I love it so much. I don't know what it is. It's just like, it was.
There was relief in that. It was just when we finally broke up, there was such a relief. That doesn't mean there wasn't pain. Let me be clear. Because you spend time with a person, you care for that person, even if that person wasn't right for you. Let's not confuse the two. Let's not confuse the two. There was such a joy of breaking that off that I remember this person had gotten me this like nice bottle of wine from, I don't even know where it was.
Italy.
Red wine from Italy or something. I don't know.
His homeland.
So
homeland. He was very proud of it. So proud to share with you.
And so I just popped that thing open when finally the chains were broken. I popped that thing open. I drew me a bath. You know, I love my baths. You know I do. I love them nice and hot, like scalding, like your skin's about to fall off. I opened that bottle of wine. I poured it all in that bathtub, and I soaked myself, listened to some music. It was such a liberating thing. I was like, it was a celebration.
That's
No
what I'm talking
shame to
about.
this person. I'm just
No.
saying, I felt released. I
Mhm.
felt joy. I knew that I had settled for something that didn't align with my values and priorities.
Mm.
I'm not saying this person was less than me. Let's be clear on that. What I am saying is we did not align. We did not align.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I poured that nice bottle of wine right into my bath to the tub, and I soaked myself. I sure did.
You sure did.
And afterwards, I had myself some pizza pockets and watched Lord of the Rings. It was a night. It was a night, and it was wonderful.
A night to remember. Honestly, it's one of my very favorite stories. Top 5, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Mhm.
laid in my
Mhm.
hammock at midnight in a neighborhood
Yes.
that you shouldn't be laying in a hammock at midnight. And I laid there, and I think I had like some raspberry vodka, and I just took some sips off of that and laid up in that hammock. Not the cheap, not the expensive wine. No, I bathed in that. But this was like vodka you get at like a quickie stop from the fridge. And I was like, this is wonderful. Have my pizza pockets, my Lord of the Rings, and now I'm in a hammock in the middle of a sketch neighborhood with some vodka at midnight. It was a celebration. Uh-huh.
It was. It was a
Yeah.
great
Mhm.
celebration.
Yeah.
It was.
Because I knew I had settled for something I wasn't supposed to be involved in.
Mhm.
I knew I answered too quickly. I knew that I was not ready. I was not mature enough to make that decision. My line of thinking was not there. I said yes
Yeah.
because I felt like I needed to answer. And I feel like that is a lot of what catapult is. No, it does not. Catapults people into
Doesn't do that.
decisions.
Doesn't do
Doesn't
that.
do that.
No.
Mm-mm. It catapults people into decisions that they realize they've settled. They settled for something because they didn't think it through. So it wasn't a matter of I was starving for something. I was very happy in my life. I had friendships. I had a job. Yeah, I think him and I both knew that this was going nowhere. I think his values and his priorities, I didn't align with that. Right. And we just kind of were both realizing this is not going to work. This is not. We could be friends, but, and I didn't even want to be friends after that. No offense. But I just.
Well, friends are aligned with our values too and our priorities.
Yes. Uh-huh.
You
And
know, it's not
I'm
just a
not the
romantic
person.
relationship.
Look, I'm not the one to be like, we were boyfriend and girlfriend and now we're friends. I'm like, I'm done. So every day I felt unsettled. Every day I felt sick to my stomach. Every day I knew this person was not for me. And every day I convinced myself that they were things that you just had to accept. And it was not about acceptance. I realized I was settling for something that was not good. It was not nourishing. It was not feeding me. It was not edifying. I felt worse about myself every day, which was not good. Hello, sign. I
All fine.
felt like I was vanishing. I felt like I was no longer myself.
But you put on a
have to look at these
very
things.
good show, like a very good friend, Wendolyn.
Yes, I did, because I knew. And do you remember what I said to you? You said, can you see yourself marrying this person? I remember I had a cup of coconut coffee in my hand, and we were pulling out of this drive-through in Connecticut. Still remember that
We love
coffee.
our
I still
coconut
remember
coffee.
it.
We love it.
Yes, we do. And you knew exactly where to take me. And we were pulling out of this drive-through, and you said, can you see yourself marrying him? And I said, 1,000 things would have to change in order for me to marry this person. And I knew it. What kept me going was the fact that I would now have to go against what I said. I had said yes, and now I was going to have to say no, and that bothered me. And some of it was pride, let's be honest. But some of it was the fact that I had to say no to something I already said yes to.
Yes.
And that was something, that was the pill I had to swallow. And that pill was the size of a freaking boulder. Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
But I had to swallow it. Yeah. And thank God, because after I did, and after we broke up, I had my wine-filled bath and my pizza pockets, and I was settled. And I was like, yes, this is how you know. There is that pain of losing that person that you did care for, even if it wasn't good and healthy and blah, blah, all the things. But oh my goodness, the relief, the peace that my body felt after that, my spirit and my body. It wasn't just one thing. It was all of me. All of me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everything was there. Everything aligned at that time.
Everything.
And why we're spending so much time on this is we really want you to see what happens when people make the mistake of settling or accepting. So let's just be a little technical here for a moment, okay? Typically within a relationship, could be anything, friendship, job, friendship, like a relationship with a community, a spouse, loved one, whatever. 3 to 6 months in, after you make the decision of what that relationship is going to be, you think is acceptance, but it's really that you've settled. Here are some markers. About 3 to 6 months in, resentment starts building. Your body's signaling that you overrode it. In those 1 to 3 months before, you were trying to make it work. Probably you were testing yourself, testing the other person, the situation. Okay. Then you can't help it, but the resentment comes in 3 to 6 months later. You overrode yourself. Your body's not happy. It is not happy with you. 6 to 12 months in, you're exhausted. You're absolutely exhausted. You're blaming everybody else, the situation. You're trying to find reasons why you are feeling the way that you do, instead of recognizing your own choice. Because what happens, Wendolyn, when we recognize our own choice, then we have to do something about it. And we know that next step is going to bring a lot of discomfort. So what do? We stay in our pride, whatever words you want to put there, right? We stick in our pride. It's a choice. It's a choice. And then year 1 to year 2 and beyond, we've normalized it. We've, and then we've taught ourselves and everybody around us that this is acceptable. It's fine, guys. I've accepted it.
Yeah.
When you talk about the people at your table, it's really difficult to be a person at this with the choice of a friend who has normalized the situation and they really need freedom from it, right? This is something that we can talk about another time, but we've all been there on one side or the other where we know that situation that they've stayed in and normalized over 2 years is not serving them. But, but yet they believe that it is, and they've accepted it. So they think, but they've settled. Okay. Yeah. And the hardest part is, we've all seen this. The longer you stay, the harder it gets to leave. And now you've built a whole narrative, and it just becomes part of your story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why I could only deal with it for like 8 months, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 8 months for you. That's still quite a long time.
It was a long time for me. Oh yeah, it was my first
probably
relationship.
Felt like 8 years. Mm-hmm.
It felt like 1,000. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
But when you
and look, it felt like I've been married to Joe for 6 months, and we've been married for almost 15 years. So, like, if that tells you anything.
That tells a lot. Yes. And the person who gets hurt the most is not the other person. through this process. The person who gets hurt the most typically in the end is you. Your nervous system has to learn to trust itself again. That takes time.
Yeah.
This isn't about being picky or difficult. It's about your own integrity. And what is integrity? Being led by your morals, your values, your priorities, and sticking to it and feeling aligned with that. And making the decision in the dark, still being aligned with that. When you are making a decision, please go back to that. Please go back to what you have and you see in front of you. Be honest. Take the pause. There can be good parts of somebody that really encourage you to say yes. And if you say yes, pay attention to how you feel. If it feels unsettling, right? That's one thing. If it feels uncomfortable, that's another thing. If you feel anxious, that's another thing. But if you're like, you feel the relief, check in what that relief is. That I finally made the decision. In general, like you said, Wendolyn, I just made the decision, That felt like a relief because it was like, finally. And like we said earlier, your decision can be, I need more time. I don't know. Your answer can be, not really settled with that right now. I have to get back to you. Can you imagine if we just took the pause, if we were ready to answer a question that maybe to the person asking, it really only serves them. It really doesn't serve both of us. We can even bring this all the way back to that. Does this question that somebody is asking me and they need an answer, is this to serve the person, to serve me, or both of us?
Yeah, that's a very good question to ask.
I've never said that before. I don't think I have. I might probably say it in a different way. Like I know with couples, I always say, like, let's look at this situation. What is my stuff? What is your stuff? What is our stuff? But taking it in the context of what we're talking about is, well, thank you for asking me this question. And I can even ask the person back if I really want to. And that could be a 1% of, is this question for me? Or are you asking this question for yourself? Because my answer, is this for us? Like, how is my answer going to matter? How is my answer going to change the situation?
Yeah.
Sometimes people want information. We'll talk maybe more about this too, but sometimes people just want information to use it against you. You've probably experienced that. I'm sorry if you have. It's awful. And sometimes people ask you the question because they want to know for them, because they want to get to that thing before you. I mean, there's all different reasons why people ask questions, and I guess we're going to do something on that later. But if you think about this, like the markers of 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, growing in resentment, then you're exhausted. Now you've normalized it. Now you have pride. Now you've done this thing. I have built a whole narrative. Now I'm going to play victim. Now I'm just like accepting that this is it.
All right, quick pause before we keep going. If you're enjoying this conversation, we want to ask you for a small favor. Go ahead and follow the podcast and leave us a review. Those reviews actually tell us that these conversations are reaching and helping people. And that matters to us because doing this takes time out of our day, our week, and sometimes it takes our sanity. So if something you've heard here has helped you think differently, have a better conversation, or even just feel a little less crazy in your life, take 10 seconds and leave us a review. It helps the show grow and lets us know that it's worth continuing. Plus, Meredith says leaving a review is a healthy relational behavior, and I'm pretty sure therapists know things. And honestly, it's a nice way to say keep going without having to send us baked goods, although we accept those too. All right, now back to the conversation before we get off track. which is completely typical of us.
Here are some of the sayings that we grow up with that we're just like, okay, that makes sense. And over time, it just makes sense for us to be in, let's just say, a miserable marriage, because that's mostly what we see. So that this is just what marriages are like, right? So that becomes your narrative, and it just becomes like something else that you know. So
Yeah.
when we talk about the nervous system, and you talk about the pause, what you're talking about is the calm in your nervous system. You're talking about a breath. You're talking about being caught up in something. Let me get to the point of that I can really listen to myself, where I really can experience when I go through the situation in my mind and I say, I'm going to say yes to this guy. What does it feel like to me? Maybe I go to my table. Maybe I spend time with myself and I know what I need to do in order to make a wise decision. Why is it that I want to say yes? What will change if I do? And we go through the same questions of the other side. We talk about pros and cons lists all the time. I'm not into that. Spoiler alert. Meredith says the thing that a lot of people have used for years, and I don't really think it works. I don't think we're talking about that here. I think that we're talking about how the pause and how we make the decisions that we make, going back to, we're going to keep saying it, values, priorities, our table. That's how we make decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Really. If somebody offers me a job and I'm going to make a lot less than I need to live, right? Like, okay, well, if I really think that I'm going to get a lot of other things out of this job, it's going to catapult me into something that is more of my value than money, right? Or more of my value than living in this 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm willing to share an apartment, right? Because my alone time or me being independent, or however you want to look at it, is not my priority. And money isn't necessarily my priority, but like experiences and challenges. So, and I can afford to do that. So yeah, I'm going to take a job that's a lot less, and I'm going to set my life up so that I can be in this job, right? I made that choice. So when we talk about the ways to make decisions, again, it comes back to how we really want to live our lives and our integrity, how we want to be seen. We get to choose our own narrative. We get to write our own story. And we all know a good story has a lot of ups and downs. We all like to figure it out, right? We like the excitement. We like all the emotions. We see it happening. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? A lot of times we don't even know ourselves, right? So like, it's great. It can be entertaining, but it's only entertaining for the person for so long when they're struggling. So how do we get to a point of being in discomfort for a shorter period of time to figure out if we are settling or if we're accepting? And this is what I do with clients often. Sit in it and be uncomfortable. Let it go. And you're not going to like it, most likely. Afterwards, it might feel strange what we're doing in the moment. It's not going to be the norm, because no, it's not the norm. We don't talk about this in society. We don't talk about this is how it goes. We're going against everything typically within our bodies and what we've learned over time to get to our truth. That's what we're doing, to gain wisdom, to settle the body, spirit, and mind, to really pay attention. So let's talk about the pause. Before you text back, before you agree, before you say yes, What if you just took 10 seconds? We're just talking about 10 seconds, right? Like, why 10?
Mm-hmm.
Why 10? It's long enough for your body to speak. It's short enough that you don't overthink and your anxiety. That's important. That can be you can actually listen to your body within that time. And then guys, you can have a default answer. I'm not sure right now. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll get back to you. But I really want to date you. We had so much fun. I really want to go on a second date. That sounds really nice. I had a great time too. Let me get back to you. How much will you learn about that person in that moment, Wendolyn?
Yeah.
And how they respond to your answer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Get there.
That'll give you a lot of what you need to know.
Yes.
Right there.
Mm-hmm. Tell us, Wendolyn. Tell us about that.
Oh. I have dealt with people in my life where, now keep in mind, there are people who are very good at masking and, they mirror you and all these things. But if they're asking you a question that they really want you to answer one way, and it will alter, the trajectory of what they're going to do, and you say, let me think about it, they may act fine right then.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pause long enough to think, you leave them, are they hounding you about it? Are they, hey, just thinking about you? Are they giving you space? Or are they kind of making their way in a way that sounds very concerning? Like, just thinking about you, just wondering if you're okay. I had said no to a relationship one time. Or actually, I had said, let me think about it. And then I said no. So I actually did do that. That was not, honestly, that was the Holy Ghost being like, I'm going to need you to say no right now. But, and thank you. Whew. I remember that person coming back with, not very long after, you just don't want someone to take care of you. When you don't answer the way somebody wants you to or quick enough, how they respond is very telling. Immediately it was, you're saying no or you're waiting because you have problems. You don't know how to let someone take care of you. Wow. I remember, Meredith, when you had presented, we talked about this in one of our first podcasts, you had approached somebody about having a crush on them. And you said at the end, you gave them the opportunity to think it out.
Yep.
Yeah. You gave them the opportunity to think it out, for themselves, to work it out, I should say, to work it out. And you said at the end, the ball's in your court, whatever you want to do with that, that's up to you. The person never got back to you. You didn't hound them. You didn't show up at their dorm. You just let it go. Because to you, that response of never getting back to you was also very telling.
But it was an answer. That was an answer.
But it was an answer. And
you don't have
saw
to use
that
words.
as that. You don't. But the fact that it was kind of ignored also was very telling. So it's a double-sided coin here. You can ask questions and present something to someone that you're wanting. And also their response, and you have to respect it. That was the thing, right? They didn't respond back to you, but you respected that. You didn't go looking for the answer. And that's telling of saying, okay, that was their answer and I have to respect that. I don't necessarily need them to get back to me. If that's how they wanted to respond, that's their choice, right? You say you have choices. You have choices.
You have choices. Yeah.
You do have choices. Yeah. But as I'm listening to you, Meredith, and you're talking about listening to your body, for someone who doesn't have you as their wonderful therapist,
yes.
How would you tell someone to start doing that?
Well, It's such a good question, because that is definitely the question that comes up of when, or it's very uncomfortable, or they're like, I don't really want to do that. That sounds a little, you know,
Yeah. You've dealt with a lot of that. You've
a
dealt with
lot
a
of that.
lot of people
But
who, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I normalize it in this way. Okay, it's really interesting that when we're talking about this right now, I've noticed like you're talking about it a little faster. It seems like your breath, your shortness of breath. Um, where are you talking from right now? When you're talking to me, I was like, what? I'm like, no, just pay attention to what part of your body you're speaking from. It's like, oh, I guess from my throat, or like my chest, or my stomach. Because if it's like shallow breathing and we're talking from here, and it's like, I can't believe I'm saying the things that I'm saying, you know? If we're speaking with our whole body, and like, when people do this, it's like they're very convicted of something, right? It feels
Mm-hmm.
aligned. When I'm speaking to you, and you're like, there's a listening here, that my body is a little bit more like, and I'm more interested in that. Our body is communicating something most of the time. So now I just bring it back around to, well, let's just look. We talk about body language. It's the same idea, but what is our body language? We look at other people's body language, like which way are their feet pointing, right? Like you can tell when someone's angry. Look at them. Oh, it looks like they're ready to go. They're like pointed towards the door. Great. We're looking outside of ourselves. That's important. But when do we look at our own stuff within us? Like, how am I communicating with my body? How's my body communicating with me? So, for example, if you are coming to a point where you're feeling like you're really stressed, if you could just take a moment and you like put your hand on your chest, is your heart beat? How like, just take a check of your heart. So is my heart beating really fast? No, it feels normal. Okay. Take a deep breath. Are you able to take a deep breath? What does that even mean? Does it only go to here, your throat? Does it go to your chest? Does it go to your lungs? Does it go to your stomach? Can you take it all the way down to your feet? Like, it's just paying attention to that. We typically have these moments throughout our day or a week where we respond in a way that we don't really want to respond, especially if you're a parent. And we have to check ourselves. And our kids need to check themselves too. We need to really start this language. But there's going to be a moment throughout this week, and a moment that you've had in the past week, but that doesn't really matter. You're going to have a moment in this next week where it could actually be a great response or negative response. I mean, it works both ways. And how you react or respond that is shocking to you, let's just say, like, where'd that come from? That's the moment to check in with your body. Like, ooh, that didn't feel good. Well, where did it not feel good? Where did it not feel good? Oh, in my gut, right? Oh man, it felt so good to say that. Well, where do you feel that? I don't feel it anywhere. Then you made the right decision. I've been holding on to it. Like, I've been feeling so like tense, right? In my chest. I've been like sick for days. You guys say these things all the time. I've been sick for days. I've been needing to do this for weeks, and it made me, I could barely breathe. I was having a panic attack, like, I haven't been able to sleep for months. These are somatic. This is your body telling you something, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why haven't you wanted to pick up the phone and talk to anybody, even the person that you love the most? It's like, I just can't. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. Why don't you want to talk?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to keep yourself from saying? Because you're not saying the thing to the person that you really need to say the thing to. And you probably just can't take it anymore. So we use expressions all the time. It's like, ugh. We use our hands all the time. When you put your hand over your heart, and you're just like watching a child sing, or just like, oh my gosh, this is so precious, right? Why do we put our hand over our heart? Because we feel it in there. It's going somewhere, right?
Mm.
Why is it that when we watch a psycho thriller, or a, you know, like a movie, like a fear-based movie, and our bodies just like clench up, like, and we hold our
Yeah.
breath?
Yeah.
We're waiting for it, right? That thing still happens with the people in our lives. Like, we're just waiting for that thing. Ugh, I don't know. Like, and we're looking for the release. And sometimes we don't get the release, and our bodies stay in these like clenched up thing. You can feel it in your jaw, your shoulders, your neck. Why? Why am I feeling so much pressure in that? Why am I keeping myself so closed? So all of the ways that your body is moving, not moving. I've had a headache for days. Why? Have you been clenching your jaw at night? Like, all of a sudden, people will say, all of a sudden, I've been feeling this way. Okay. Well, let's look at that. The doctors are important. Medicine's important. Let's look into that as well. But as a somatic therapist, let's really look into that.
What I'm hearing too.
Did I clear that up?
Yeah, I really like this. So what I'm hearing you say too is that aside from someone pretty much being a psychopath, everybody does this, right? They respond in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Their body naturally responds.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of them paying attention. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
took my sister on this like Jeep ride at the cabin we were at this weekend, and I was going through all these trails and all these hills. I was putting in a full-wheel drive. I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Going through I had the doors off, the top off. I mean, going through mud. And afterwards, my sister was like, "Oh, my toes hurt so bad. I guess I was curling my toes under. I was so scared during the Jeep ride." She's like, "Oh, the next day," she was like, "my toes still haven't recovered." I don't think she realized she was doing that during the ride, but afterwards, she felt it. And so it makes me think that was her natural response, to kind of curl in because she was scared.
Mm.
And, and so it's not a matter of not responding to what is in the pit, right, of how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's the matter of paying attention, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. And I also love what you said, like with your sister, you were paying attention too.
Yeah.
And that's also how we know how to make a decision if we are accepting something, or if we are settling for something, because it's also, we're in a relationship with the other person or place or group, right? So if we see how they continue to respond and how they continue to react, we can get that's information as well. So you talked about the nug, right? Like, we check about this. We check, am I starving? Right?
Last episode. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Last episode, like, am I starving? If I say no to this right now, will I be okay? Right? Like, am I just taking this because I haven't had anything else, because I've been lonely, because this is the best thing that I could get? There are moments, there's always a little piece in everything that we say, guys, that is how it has to be in the moment. Okay? We know this. We're talking about if you have control over it. So let me just say that again. 1, am I starving? Am I making this decision because it's good enough in this moment, right? Will I get the nutrition? Sure. But will I actually thrive? No.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Right. The second thing is my resources. We talked about people at your table, right? What are my resources when I'm making these decisions of settling and accepting? Am I acting desperate here? Am I going to go to my resources of the external, right? Of people I can talk with, and they'll tell me the truth. They'll join with me because I'm trying to get ready. I'm not trying to get ready. I am getting ready. I'm getting ready for something. I'm getting ready for really looking into this situation.
Yeah.
What banana am I choosing here, right? So that's the outward. And then the inward is what we were just talking about. Do I have the internal resources? Have I learned to pay attention? I actually have been paying attention this whole time. I just didn't have the language. I didn't think it was important to pay attention because I didn't think it was really signaling anything. I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, over time, we have just ignored it again and again and again. So our internal resource in paying attention to that is the somatic, is what we are experiencing physically, the sensations that we have over time. Again, that can be for something good too. I'm feeling something in my gut. It's excitement, like I just can't wait kind of thing. That also gives us a signal. So our bodies definitely give us that signal. And so that's what we talked about today in the second part. And Wendolyn, in the third part, in our next time, we're going to talk about the actual alignment. How is this actually aligned? And that comes back to our values and priorities check. That comes back to the default that I talk about a lot. That comes back to congruent. How I need this to be congruent. I need this to be congruent with my mind and my body, my emotions, my actions. It all needs to go together. Do we get there after we make one decision? No. No, we don't. No, you don't. Some of you don't realize you've been having these conversations along the way. I mean, you have been preparing yourself to make the decision, and you actually might experience it with a big, but you still have made little decisions along the way. They just haven't been in conversations. So everyone has their own process, right? Do I have enough of me left to actually give and receive this? Is this an answer that I can give right now? Is this a question I can ask right now? Is the banana ripe? Am I ready to go there?
Yeah.
Can I wait for that banana? Right? Until it's good for me to,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's good. The good thing to start with your children early too. Let me say that. To start, even if you talk about tannins and stuff, talking about preservation. Tannins are present when there needs to be preservation. It's saying, I'm not ready. When you are ready, it is now a sweeter taste. It is now ready to produce good things. And it's a really good way to teach our children not only science, right? This is the design of something and it's really cool. But it also can relate to sometimes we need to wait until we are preserving ourselves until we're ready.
I love that. Preserving yourself until you're ready. This is it, right? This is it. Like, that's why the pause is so important. And when we do the 1% claim, right? The simply 1%, Wendolyn, as we're ending this today, if you're about to say yes to something, a text, a plan, a commitment, anything, can you just pause? Just at least for 10 seconds? Even if you know in your heart of hearts. Check in with yourself. It just starts with 10 seconds. It starts with 10 seconds. Yeah. Maybe less, but let's give it 10.
And if you are around people who can't handle your pause, if you're around people pushing you to give them an answer of yes or no, pay attention, please. Pay attention to that. Because it's not about you. It is about them. We need to pay attention to that.
And that 1% can change everything.
It can. Yeah.
Take the pause. And notice what changes.
Thanks for joining us on Simply 1%, where we truly believe that small shifts over time create big change. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love for you to follow or subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. Your support helps us keep the conversation going. Make sure you connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next time, have a great week.